Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Friday, November 4th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and we will be joined by a surprise special guest during the show as well. We're ready to break down the Friday NHL card, which just has two games. One of them is just about to drop the puck over in Finland. It is the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Colorado Avalanche. Again, we posted some of our opinions on this game on the Ice Guys Twitter at @Ice Guys. A small over recommendation for me. I know Alex decided to pass on this game. I've also decided, let's have some fun. It's an afternoon game on a Friday. We don't get these very often. I did post a bunch of player props, goal scorer props on Twitter. As usual, we've got hopefully some bargain bin specials that will come through for us in this game. We took all the Finnish players, essentially. Rantanen, Laine, Lehkonen. You're not getting the best prices with them, plus 130, plus 190, plus 200 to score a goal. But I thought they were worth a look here in this game from a goal scorer prop standpoint. The others I bet were Evan Rodriguez, who's on the top line. I love those situations. Player moving up the lineup. Evan Rodriguez, a good price, plus 280. Roslovic for Columbus, plus 340. Alex Newhook, who finally got on the scoreboard last game, plus 380. Kent Johnson and Cole Sillinger in the plus 450, plus 475 range for the Jackets. And two late ads I had were JT Compher, coming straight out of Compher, plus 300, and Martin Kaut, plus 590. I found a plus 590 on Martin Kaut. They're playing on the second line today with the absence of Big Val Nichushkin. So I thought that was great. And I wanted to bet Nick Blankenburg to score a goal. The defenseman for Columbus, he was plus 2,500, probably because nobody expected him to play. And all of a sudden, not only is he playing at the last second for the Jackets in this game, he's on the top pairing with Werenski. And I said, damn it, I missed it. They had taken it off the board by the time I had seen that he was on the top pair today for Columbus. So watch him score. Now. You know how that often works. Alex, good to have you with us again today.
Yeah, we had a huge slate of action last night, and then of course what seems to be very short slate because you've got a game going in progress now. Only one night game tonight, and it's just kind of weird. We were talking off air about how the NHL and this whole TV situation, they just can't get out of their own way with it. Tonight's game, Buffalo and Carolina, is going to be on ESPN Plus. So if you subscribe to ESPN Plus, you're fine. If you don't, you're not going to get to see any hockey today. It's like, why would the NHL Network pick up this game? Why wouldn't? I know ESPN2 has some college football commitments, but it's just, the growth of the game that they talk about, right? That's the whole thing of this global series, to grow the game. How much growth does the game need in Finland, all right? Like you said, there's three players. One, Patrick Laine is basically returning to the rink he grew up playing in. Same thing in the Czech Republic. Plenty of players from the Czech Republic. The game's just doing fine and well there. How about trying to grow the game here in the U.S. and in North America a little bit better and actually having, where the game is a bit more accessible? Having a game at noon means nothing to people here in North America. Most of us are at work watching it or working. And the night game, you have one spot on a Friday where there's not a whole lot of action. You have an isolated spot. NHL Network's going to just show reruns of something else, their top 20 countdowns or whatever they show whenever they aren't showing a game. So it's just one of those things that just really kind of bugs me a little bit.
Question about that. We were going to get into the Thursday night recap, but before we do that, it looks like we have our special surprise guest ready to go. And he is someone that actually most of you are very familiar with. He is our very good friend joining us for the first time and will be hopefully joining us weekly moving forward on the Ice Guys show. We got our man, Jimmy Puckline. He's back. He's in the house. Jimmy Murphy, welcome back.
What's up, guys?
How you doing? And happy birthday, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, feeling older, but yeah, nice day here though. Beautiful day here in Massachusetts, about 72 degrees and sunny on my birthday, which if you don't believe in climate change, there's your proof. Like, it's right. What the hell is going on? But I love it. I'll take this weather on my birthday. So it's good to see you guys.
It
Yeah,
is.
great
It's
seeing
awesome
you
to
too.
see you. We've missed you. I'm sure everybody else has missed you here on the show, but we are hoping to have Jimmy with us every week on the show, once a week moving forward. We're going to start with Fridays because Jimmy said that's best for him. Now, keep in mind, too, things could happen with the breaking news with the Bruins and something comes up with the beat, and all of a sudden, the day has to change or whatever. But no question about it, we're going to try to get Jimmy on. And it looks like Jimmy just his first appearance here. We've got him on the show, and it looks like technical issues
And
here.
the Avalanche just scored already,
And
like
the
2 minutes
Avalanche have
into the
scored
game.
already in the first 2 minutes. It was Logan O'Connor getting the goal. So an early 1-0 lead. And there's that Civ defense of Columbus again, which has just been dreadful this season, what they've been doing at the defensive end of the ice. No question about that. So there he is.
There you
You
go.
didn't miss my Murphy's Law technology, though, did you?
I know. You're just in and out, mic issues, video issues, connection issues. But it is what it is. But no, Jimmy, it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
And certainly it's good to finally be able to talk a little hockey with you. Like I said, we're going to try to get Jimmy on every Friday here on the show. Lots to talk about. So rather than start about talking about last night, we haven't seen you. We haven't been able to talk to you yet this season. Just over the first month of the season, players that stand out to you, Jimmy, teams that are standing out to you. Certainly you have to start in your own backyard with the Boston Bruins. I mean, to see this team at 10-1, there's no way in a million years I would have predicted this kind of start for the Bruins this season.
No, I'm right with you. Look, I was not a fan of what might go down this year with the Bruins. I've been kind of clamoring for a rebuild for a while now. I didn't let's bring the gang back together for one more. It's nothing against Patrice Bergeron or David Krejci. I just think that this team needs to start really thinking about the future, because once those guys are gone for certain and for good, who the hell are their centers anymore? And who's going to be a number one center, your number two center? So I think these are questions that I don't think they've addressed, and they needed to start doing that. And the only way to do that in today's NHL is to suck and build through the draft. So, sooner or later, you got to go through that, as every team does. But look, credit to them. I'm not surprised by what we're seeing from Patrice Bergeron or David Krejci. I just think that these guys are Hall of Famers and just are so smart hockey-wise that can make up for their age. And of course, David Pastrnak coming into a contract year, he was primed for a monster year, so that's not surprising. But what does surprise me is just what's happened beyond them. And obviously missing McAvoy still and Marchand for a while there. It was still pretty amazing what that forward group and that defensive group were able to do. I love the way that they've sort of seamlessly transitioned into Jim Montgomery's system, which I don't think is all that different from Bruce Cassidy, but there are some tweaks that are noticeable. And a credit to them. They've exceeded expectations. They were trying to tell us that they were a cup contender. I didn't think so. I had them once again, like I did last year, kind of in that 7th to 10th slot in the conference, maybe just make it or just don't make the playoffs. But they're well ahead of that right now. And look, now, it's only October or November now, but I mean, we've only been through 1 month. I get it. But, if they keep this up for even a couple more weeks, they could go on a huge slide and still recover from that, or still hang around and be in the mix come February or March. That's how well they position themselves right now. And it's a credit to the management, a credit to the coaching, and a credit to the players.
It is. And what I find shocking right now a little bit too about the Bruins is all the different players that are contributing. How many seasons have we gone by saying perfection line gets shut down, the offense gets shut down? Yeah. But we're seeing great performances. Charlie Coyle's been great here in the first month of the season. Yeah, Taylor Hall has stepped up offensively for them. Nick Foligno, of all people, has found some offensive fluidity early on in the campaign. There's no question. And Brad Marchand, I marvel at this guy. I mean, coming off the injury, getting back to the ice a month ahead of schedule. People were predicting Thanksgiving for him to come back to the Boston Bruins. He's a month ahead of schedule, and he's playing immediately like he never left the ice. I mean, just right away, contributing and being an impact player all over again.
Did you guys read a story he did, though? I mean, he kind of said some of this to us, too, here in Boston, but he did a good story with Emily Kaplan where, he's like, American Thanksgiving was never when I was going to come back. I knew, he's like, I was coming back way earlier than that. And he basically told the Bruins training staff and management, he said, look, I'm going to do what I have to do to get back like a month ahead of what you're telling the media and the public. So you can either go in this with me and guide me so that I don't re-injure myself or hurt myself for the future, or you can go against me, and I'm going to do it either way. So you might as well be on board with me. So it looks like that, the plan all along was he would come back earlier, but that's him. That's Brad Marchand, as it said in that story. I mean, he's constantly defied the odds. And you look back to when he was a rookie, there was a story in there about what Chiarelli said to him after his first 20 games in the NHL after 2010, when the Bruins got bounced from the Flyers in that, epic, what was it, 3-0 they're up? Yeah, against the Flyers that year. And so in the exit meetings, he said, yeah, we think if you come back and you hustle and you bulk up and, you might be able to chip in 10 goals here and there. You never know, but you're going to be a good fourth liner. And Marchand said, no. I'm going to score 20 or more every year. So that's what he's done. I mean, he's just become one of the most consistent goal scorers in the NHL, and it's all because of his work ethic and his dedication. So credit to him.
Yeah, it was the work ethic. You're absolutely right. That's what's gotten him to this point where he's just worked at it and gotten better. You're right. People, when he first was with the Bruins, he'll be a nice depth player, third, fourth line, hit, maybe drop the gloves every now and then. That's people just pigeonholed him for that kind of role, not this kind of dominant offensive player that he's turned into and consistently year in and year out. But it's been just incredible to see. And like I said constantly to other Leaf fans that, hey, you love Brad Marchand on your team. I know you despise the guy because he plays for the Bruins, and the Bruins have given you a lot of misery over the years, but you love him in blue and white.
Yeah. I bet they'd like him more than Mitch Marner.
Yeah. Right. And then, of course, the biggest thing too, Jim Montgomery. I mean, he's got to be, right there for the Jack Adams Award at this point, just with this great starter. They keep floating along this way. Just his own personal story is incredible, but to lead this team, and everybody's kind of wondering, how he would fit in. Bruce Cassidy did such a great job there, but he's really, and he's turned around. I talked about it yesterday on the show, how, we kind of always have a built-in, almost for lack of a better term, stereotype of how the Western Conference teams are always the fast offensive teams, and the Eastern Conference is more, defensive, more physical. But it seems like Jim Montgomery has taken those years from Dallas, and even Dallas wasn't that really fast offensively, but in St. Louis.
They were faster with him, though, before Bonus got there.
They were. Right. Yeah. And so he's taken that speed and that kind of Western style, if you will, with Boston, and I think it's catching some of those teams in the East off guard. They're so used to playing Boston, saying it's going to be a game between the lines, everything in the neutral zone, lots of heavy hitting and physical body work, and there's still some of that. But the offensive skill and the passing's much cleaner. Those traits, I think Montgomery has really built in with that club.
Yeah, look, guys, one thing, and this is not to take away from Jim Montgomery. I think he's doing a great job, so don't get me wrong there. But one thing I'm going to be kind of interested in is, and you hope it doesn't happen for the Bruins, but if Patrice Bergeron goes down with an injury and he's out long term, I'm not so much interested. Well, that's a huge loss, obviously, in itself, but how much of a loss of it is from Montgomery, because from by all accounts, covering this team so far, and the way Montgomery just constantly praises the leadership core in there and Bergeron and how blessed he is to coach this. And basically, I mean, what he said to me, even just not in a media scrum, just kind of talking and shooting the breeze, it's like, he's like, he's another coach. I mean, he's our Reg Dunlop, that's what he is out there. He's not going and telling them to goon it up or anything, but, he's a Reg Dunlop out there. He's a player coach right now for Jim Montgomery. And what happens when that's not there anymore? And that's when I really want to see how much of an effect he's having on the team. Again, I'm not taking away what he's doing right now, but that is a huge thing to have when you consider it for any coach. I'm not saying Montgomery's wrong to lean on him. Any coach would be an idiot not to if they were coming into this job. Yeah. That's the first thing you want to do is you want to make this guy your ally. You want to pick his brain every damn day on the bench, in the locker room, wherever. You want to be calling him now, hey, sorry to bother you at dinner, Patrice, but I was really wondering if you could help me out with, he's going to be doing stuff like that all the time, and God bless him for doing it. And it's a great, outlet to have for him as a new coach there. Not many coaches can go into that type of situation. Yep. So I just think Bergeron deserves a lot of credit right now for where the Bruins are as well.
Exactly. The coming back and then, helping out Jim, as you said, giving him some, hey, because look, this is a kind of a guy he's not too familiar with the player, the system and the personnel. And, he's been away from that. Let's be honest. Jim Montgomery's had his own personal shit to deal with. he is battling alcoholism there
Yeah.
with the Dallas Stars. He had to overcome that and face, and get himself back on track following that situation. So he's coming into a brand new situation. And if he wants to lean on players that have been there forever, like a Patrice Bergeron, and someone that I think might get into coaching when he's done playing hockey, maybe Patrice, we'll wait and see. But why wouldn't he? It makes all the sense in the world to do that.
And I'll tell you too, a crazy small world story. The hockey world's so small. My second cousin is, I don't know if you guys remember Greg Cronin, used to be assistant with the Islanders and the Leafs.
Yep.
And he's the head coach of the Colorado Eagles now, the Avalanche's AHL affiliate. And, he coached Northeastern as well. So I grew up in the house. His house was behind mine growing up. So Greg Cronin and my other cousin, Donnie, his older brother, basically raised me like older brothers to me. And they've always helped me. Actually, Greg got me into the hockey world. He got me an intern gig with the Islanders out of college that basically got me into hockey media. I moved down to Long Island and worked a season there. It was actually Chara was there then. But anyhow, circling back to Montgomery here. So I get a call from Greg when they hired him, and he goes, I'm so happy for Jimmy. And I go, he goes, do I know him? I'm his sponsor. So
wow.
he's Jimmy Montgomery's sponsor. And he said that, he's got a couple other people he sponsors. Greg's been sober for about 24 years now. And he said that out of all the people he's ever worked with and tried to help, that Jimmy has been the most receptive and the most sincere. He's helped people in similar situations, not necessarily just in hockey, but in the business world where, people are getting second chances in a corporation or a job. Right. And Greg can smell the bullshit, so to speak. And he knows when somebody's doing it just to get the job or just to get back into the business. Right. And he's like, that's not the case for Jimmy. And he said, look, I'm telling you, I'm going to call you out and I'm going to haunt you if you stop what you're doing. When you get hired here and you start and he said, no, he said, this guy is just dedicated. And he gave him a lot of credit for the way he's turned his life around.
That's great. That's
incredible. I didn't know there was that connection with Greg, and I didn't even know Greg, was helping people battle alcoholism. Honestly, that's pretty incredible. And it's someone, obviously, Greg, that battled it himself, a very long time ago. As you mentioned, 24 years now sober for him? Yeah,
man, it's amazing. So credit to him, and I really like him. He doesn't give the best quotes like Cassidy did, but I'll take it. He's starting to open up a little more with us. So.
How about the fact that the two teams with the best records in the NHL are the current Bruins head coach and the former Bruins head coach?
Yeah, what would the odds have been then? I mean, if you at the beginning of the season, I don't know what they would have been, but that would have been something great.
I am shocked by the Bruins. I'm mildly surprised by Vegas' start, but I'm not shocked by Vegas' start because I know they've got themselves a real head coach there.
Let's face it, man. I mean, we talked about this ad nauseum last year, guys. Look at the injuries they faced last year. I mean, you can't look at them and say, look, on paper, this team still isn't a cup contender. I mean, look at the skill they still have. I get the goalie situation going in and had to raise a lot of question marks, and it did with me. I was like, well, now I'm not so high on Vegas when Leonard went down, but I mean, Logan Thompson is great.
He's the real deal.
You said, though, Ian, look at the way Cassidy's system has helped alleviate the absence of Leonard and, helped the goalie kind of get to where he is now. So, yeah, great situation. It would be a hell of a story if they ever meet in the Cup final. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it would. It really would.
No question about it. That would be fascinating here. As it looks like we got ourselves a little nastiness developing in the Jackets and Avs game, which is good. You like to see that little spirit in this early afternoon affair.
Well, that's something they don't get over there in Finland, a fight.
Who do you think guys liking this, by the way, in this game?
I took over 6.5 and a bunch of goal scorer props.
Yeah. I didn't have much of a feel in it, man. These European games, I just can't get a grasp on. You don't know what team's affected by the time difference, who's living it up over there, going out.
Right.
I mean, I know I went to Prague when the Bruins went there the year they won the Cup, and I can just say that if you go back and look it up, the Bruins played 2 games against what was then Phoenix, now Arizona, and they were heavy favorites coming into that first game, and they got smoked. I think something like 6-2. Right. Mm-hmm. 2 was in. And then they put Tim Thomas in for the second game. He won. He was superb. And now I think he got a 4-0 shutout or something. And that was all she wrote. I mean, he went on that amazing tear that year. But going back to that first game, I wasn't too surprised because I just happened to be out pretty late in Prague the night before that game, and it was a matinee there. And yeah, let's just say I saw a couple of the guys out there at the same place, and I was like, well, yeah, this explains it.
Right.
I mean, you're in Europe, you're in Finland now, you haven't, you've never been there. So I don't.
Or guys returning home, that's always an angle too.
Home, you don't know how many distractions there are, so it's just a hard game to get a grasp on.
Yeah, and from a Columbus standpoint, the team's struggling mightily. Maybe the best thing for them is getting over to Finland, and getting away. But although it hasn't started that way for them today, they're already down 1-0.
They had a big dinner at the Jarmo Kekalainen family household there, right?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yarmo going home. That's right. The GM of the Blue Jackets, no doubt. Good call there with that. Absolutely. I'm sure he would have hosted the whole team, players, coaches, for a big dinner. I'm sure while they're over there, no question about that. But yeah, let's talk about some last night, but we'll also intertwine some storylines that are going on. I got to bring up Erik Karlsson simply because I cashed plus 475 with him to score a goal. I couldn't believe there's been no adjustment in his prices to score goals right now. Unreal. Not seeing that he scored 6 goals in 3 games combined heading into last night. He scores again in the game against the Florida Panthers. Erik Karlsson now has 10 goals. And I think your colleague, San Jose Hockey Now, Mr. Shangpeng, mentioned that it's the first time, I think, since post-World War II NHL that someone started the season, defenseman, 10 goals in like 13 games or something to begin the season. That's absolutely insane. Yeah, it is. It's nuts. But he's healthy. You see it on the ice. He's skating like the wind again. He's healthy. He's being aggressive offensively, and they're feeding him the puck all the time, whether it's 5-on-5 or on the power play. You know this, Jimmy. When people set up on the power play teams, they're trying to feed the puck down low, get the forwards involved, shoot from the dots, shoot from the face-off circles. San Jose's power play, Jimmy, they're feeding it back to the point and said, Erik Karlsson, shoot away, rip away. Yeah, and he's become the focal point of their power play.
Well, one thing too, and I don't know if it was Shang that wrote it or somebody else said it. And it was a good question, and it's not a knock on Brent Burns at all, but how much is this because Brent Burns is gone and more of the looks he's getting now out there with him not on the ice at the same time sometimes, and two very big personalities. Again, I'm not knocking Brent Burns. I think he's one of the greatest defensemen of the last 10 years, but it's just maybe the two of them were better off not together on the same team. So. We'll see, but yeah, credit to him. And guys, I've been watching. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I think I've told you too. I went to high school with Mike Greer, the GM of San Jose, so he's an old friend, and he's a GM now. So I've been watching them a little more. Just got a personal interest in it. They're a fun team to watch, man. And I've hit some fun props on them. I mean, they can score. They give up, but they can score as well. And I don't mind watching their games.
Yeah, and you make a great point, too, with Burns. I mean, look at how he's doing in Carolina. He's kind of re-energized himself with that younger core in Carolina. And it's the old basketball adage, there's only one ball, but there's only one puck, And so when you have two defensemen who are kind of offensive-minded in that aspect, it may not be, enough space for two of them on the same squad. So
Yep.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We're talking a defenseman here with 10 goals in 13 games to begin the season. I mean,
I find it fascinating that was that long, between that happening. That there were no all the great defensemen in the 80s and even some of the scores in the 90s. That that's interesting.
Like Paul Coffey never did that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, defenseman Dahlin in Buffalo is the defenseman second in goals after Karlsson with 6.
Don't sleep on the Swede in Boston either.
No, Hampus Lindholm.
Ride that point or more a game if you can still get it at a good value, guys. I mean, he's ripping it up right now.
Not only that, he's jumping into the play as well.
Oh, yeah, that overtime win against Pittsburgh, right?
As well. Yeah, absolutely. He's been jumping into the play. He's been, shooting the puck a lot. I mean, you look at his shots on goal numbers; they're not bad either with Hampus Lindholm. Oh, I think we have ourselves a Colorado goal, and it's Mr. JT Compher. I'm coming straight out of Compher. One of our goal props has just hit plus 300. There we go. Nice, very good to see that.
And Ian, you made a great point too about saying with Karlsson, the fact that he's getting looks and chances to score. We talk about things going waves in hockey, and it seems like and I've been saying this for years, even with the shootout. If you've seen some of these shootouts lately, you've seen some very uninspiring, uncreative moves. I'm like, why don't you guys just go on and just utilize the old slap shot? You know, we've gotten so used to I feel like goalies have gotten so used to seeing wrist shots and snapshots. Just a giant clapper from the point sometimes might throw a goalie off every now and then. You know, just mix it in a little bit. You know.
Well, it is. I mean, they look just as bad and horrendous in their own end, Columbus, as they did in that blowout loss to Jersey right before they made the trip to 7-1 that game was. Yeah, I mean, they've got problems right now defensively. You know what? I feel bad for Brad Larson. I mean, he does have to take the blame, obviously. He's the head coach, but ever since he's been the head coach of the Jackets, this has been a precipitous drop in this team's ability to defend, which is something that when Torts was there, that was something that was a hallmark of Columbus hockey. And it has just been a precipitous fall in this team in their own zone. I mean, it's a disaster.
That's not the biggest problem, though. Their biggest problem is that they don't have the offense to match up with it. I thought they were going to be a team that just kind of rolled out the puck every night. And, we'll give up 5, but we can get 6 or 7 with the talent they have up top. And that hasn't been the case. They're 0 for 24 now in the power play this year. So that's problematic.
No, I mean, that's problematic, too, because they needed that offense, Alex, to be great. All right. They needed to be able to score goals. Definitely. They needed to be able to put the puck in the net because they weren't going to be able to defend. Everybody knows this is a below average defensive team. And I feel bad too and the goaltending, like it's got to be said. And I feel bad for this kid. He's gone through a lot. I really think, and Alex, you've mentioned this before on the show, the passing of Matisse Kivlenieks, all right, his good friend, his fellow country mate from Latvia. I think it's really shaken him up a little bit, Elvis Merzlikins. And I think it's impacted maybe him a little mentally at the moment. And because he had some moments where he was playing pretty well in net, but we didn't see it down the stretch last year, and we haven't seen it at all this year from him. He's really been fighting the puck, and you wonder if he's still fully gotten over that.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I thought we were going to see a bounce back year from him because he had that full year. Kind of gave him a mulligan for what we saw last season. It's understandable completely. But like I said, now his struggles. It seems to be something else because, like I said, it's not so much fundamentals. His fundamentals mechanics look good when you watch him play. But like I said, the fact that he doesn't have that stronger blue line in front of him, and now, like I said, the goals that he is letting in, the pucks that he would have been stopping in 2 or 3 seasons ago. So that's something you have to wonder about.
Yeah, no question about that. And you can tell Jimmy Murphy is back on the ice, guys. I'm hearing the dings from his phone. I got to bust out the John Tortorella line from the playoffs 10 years ago. That's ridiculous. Actually, I missed hearing that ding. Actually, so
speaking of guys, what about Torts?
Yeah.
Better than expected. Although they've cooled off a little this week, back-to-back losses to the Rangers and the Leafs. But overall, I didn't expect them to be a 500 team at this point.
What about his jab there? Was it yesterday, the day before, after the Matthews incident? And he goes, "Oh, whatever, let him do it. It's his last year there, anyways." What the hell was that?
Yeah.
You know something we don't?
I said that at the end of last year, the playoffs. I said if things don't go well in Toronto, that he might jump sooner than later. I said the same thing about McDavid. Although Edmonton looks really good right now, but the superstars, they got to win at some point. All that pressure on them, and the pressure of Toronto and Edmonton in those cities. We talked about it with Jack Campbell, how he just went from one pressure situation to another, and it seems to be affecting him a little bit.
Yeah, no question about that. I'll tell you what, the Leafs, the Leaf fans finally, we talked about this yesterday after the win against the Flyers. Okay, it was the Flyers, but they needed something good to happen. That was a disaster of a road trip for them in California. The Vultures are already circling around Dubas and Keefe, for better or worse. That's just the way it is. I mean, he's already gotten questions at the end of that road trip. You worried about you playing for your job. They're already asking him that about Keefe. But it was a nice win, much needed. Tavares was great. I think it was one of his best games against as a Leaf captain. No question about that. The way he played against Philly. But let's see how you do against Boston. All right, this 10-1 Bruins team that's rip roaring right now. Let's see how you do against them on Saturday night before we're ready to say, hey, things are all good in Leafland.
Yeah, but that's great. It's a great point. I mean, that if they don't come through there, but if they do, that might be just what the doctor ordered, right? I mean, that could be the thing that puts them back the other way, that the confidence booster they need to beat a team like the Bruins. And sooner or later, the Bruins are going to come back to earth. It's just the way it is. It's human nature. But for Toronto fans, they're hoping it's tomorrow night. But That's going to be a very interesting game. I think it's obviously just like we're saying, it's a much bigger game right now for Toronto than it is for the Bruins. If the Bruins lose, big deal. So you're 10-2. Whoop-dee-dee. You go home, you rest for a little. Some of your guys might come back next week. So this is an interesting moment for the Toronto Maple Leafs going forward.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Briefly about last night, and then we'll talk about Buffalo and Carolina, the one game tonight on the NHL board. Briefly about last night, I mean, it was a pond hockey game again for the Anaheim Ducks last night. I want to bring up that game specifically, 8-5. I mean, talk about Columbus. They're the Columbus of the West right now. Anaheim can't keep pucks out of their own net. It becomes an issue. John Gibson, again, gives up a lot of goals. It's not been the bounce back I was kind of hoping he'd have in net, but they've been bad in front of him, and that to me is kind of disappointing because you added Klingberg. You have Cam Fowler, you have Shattenkirk. You've got some nice defensemen back there, although they are going to miss Drysdale. All right, they are going to miss that guy, and you already see without Jamie Drysdale what there might be like on that blue line. And it's unfortunate because they've got the firepower, with Strome and Vetrano, two former Rangers that they brought in the offseason with Terry and Zegras and Adam Henrique. And there's definitely Comtois, who's been very good lately. I mean, there's an ability to put the puck in the net. Very skilled team, but can't keep the puck out of their own net. Is Dallas Eakins now seat warming up? Are we at that stage with him now with the way things have gone with Anaheim? And then on the flip side, a team that's roaring right now after a start where they had two miserable games to start the season, and they win last night with an incredible comeback against Edmonton in the third period. The New Jersey Devils are now 8-3. How about that? How about the turnaround? Because they were 0-2 to begin the year. They lost there was a horrible first home game of the year for them. I remember it, against the Detroit Red Wings. They lost 5-2. They were piss poor in that game. They started 0-2 after that loss. In the building, they're chanting "Fire Lindy," as in Lindy Ruff, during that game. And since then, they have been almost unbeatable. And they've turned it around. They've gone from 0-2 to 8-3. The skill and the speed and the four lines of offense that they have right now are something else. If you actually look, Jimmy, at their defensive metrics and defensive statistics, they're actually a top 5 defensive team right now. New Jersey, I mean, it's stunning. If they can get a lick of goaltending from the inconsistent, injury-riddled Blackwood, and more specifically Vanacek, who I think has been very good for New Jersey, wow, maybe we have something here. Jimmy, what do you think of this Devils team?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm regretting it. I was really interested in taking them last night. Just really liked this. You know what? Why not? And then I just got caught up writing after the Bruins game, forgot to throw it in. But they've impressed me, man. And that's a great point by you. Not only are they consistently outshooting teams, I mean, really outshooting them, they're limiting shots against. And that's what's been big. I mean, you mentioned it there. I mean, we knew coming in, their Achilles heel was their goaltending. And the goaltending has been good, not great. It's gone through some rough patches as well, but it's been the system that they're buying into all of a sudden in front of those goalies that's really leading to their success right now. And you mentioned they're all saying fire Ruff, fire Ruff. Well, a lot of this is on Ruff, man. I mean, they've changed. He's adapted. Whatever he saw after those first few games when they were sucking, he made some tweaks there, and they're working. So I think he deserves a ton of credit for this.
Well, of course you have to, and no question. And he didn't flinch. It's not like a situation where he got worried and petrified at the fans what they were chanting during that game. He said, "I'm going to keep doing my job, coming to work, and we're going to try to turn this around after the first 2 games." And turn it around, they have. I mean, It's been an incredible run. I mean, Jesper Bratt, and I said this about Jesper Bratt, Jimmy, on the show yesterday. When he gets on a streak, you ride it because he's a streaky player. I mean, early in the season, he was in the tank a little bit this year. Last year, he'd go through some cold streaks, but when he's on a hot streak, it's hot. It's piping hot.
Yeah.
It's scalding hot. He can go on an 8-9 game stretch where he's got like 12 points and like 8 or 9 goals. That's what he can do. And we're seeing that. He's in that kind of zone right now for the New Jersey Devils. No question about that. Quickly, other games from last night. Then we'll go to tonight's game. Buffalo, Carolina. It's just the only game, believe it or not, on the board. Results worth talking about. Terry Edelman's Minnesota Wild. I don't know where they went to last night. They got shut out by the Seattle Kraken 4-0. The Blues, tailspin continues, 5-2, another bad loss at home. I mean, that's 3 bad performances in a row, all on home ice against Montreal, LA. They get buried, and then again by the Islanders last night. I mean, they're saying we got to show up, we got to show up, we got to show up, and all it's been is word speak right now from Ryan O'Reilly and a bunch of the Blues. We have not seen them show up and respond and get back on track. So worries there, and they've fallen all the way to last in the Central right now. The St. Louis Blues with this skid that they are on. Alex, you can talk about the Minnesota situation because you had a great thought and opinion on this on Twitter that it felt like the XL Energy Center last night was dead. It was like a church in there. And Minnesota, which has thrived on home ice in past seasons, all of a sudden this year, they've actually been better away from XL than they've been on home ice.
Yeah, we have to call it the XL Center. We can't use energy right now for the moment because there's none of that there. It was absolutely dead silent for most of the game. The team just wasn't, and that's the thing. You can't expect the fans to just sit there if the game's not interesting. And they're gonna just get bored like anybody else. So the team's got to come out with energy. They didn't. They made Martin Jones once again look like Barty Brodeur. It's just fascinating how all of a sudden he's getting into a rhythm. We've seen him turn in 3 out of 4 more above quality starts, getting a shutout in this one. But the Wild just haven't played well at home. That's something we haven't been able to say about them almost in their entire history, to be honest. They've always been a better home team than road team, but some years better than others. But this year, and like I said, we looked at Fleury splits, how bad they were home and road, but it's really just the whole team. And it's hard to explain. The building's packed every night. They're right back to where they were, pre-pandemic as far as that goes. But they just haven't had the energy and speed at home that they had on the road. And at road, we've seen them play a more disciplined defensive style of hockey, which most teams tend to do that. But that open ice and clean passing that we've seen from their offense as early as the beginning of the year and all of last season, it has been there certainly in the last couple of games.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Everyone's going to have a bad game, but you're right. There was just a team that was very lethargic on the ice, and it went back to the crowd off the ice as well. And no doubt about that. That won't be a goal, by the way, in this Colorado-Columbus game. There's basically Roslovic pushed the pads of Georgiev, and then the puck went in the net. So that's definitely not going to count. So it's still 2-0 Colorado. Before we get to the Friday night game, Buffalo, Carolina, Jimmy, any other teams, things you want to discuss, things that have stuck out to you here in the first month?
Well, look around right now. I mean, I think we pretty much covered it there. I think, one team is, I don't want to jump the gun. We'll get to it in a second, is the Buffalo Sabres. So I'll definitely give you my take on them in a bit. But other than that, I think one team I'm really been interested in watching. I don't know if they're taking. They haven't been bad by any means, but I don't know if they're all of a sudden they like the Lightning did the year that they lost to the Blue Jackets, that they're like, the regular season, we just got to tread water and make it to the playoffs and we'll turn it on. And that's the Florida Panthers. I feel like right now there's sort of that mentality there. And at times it is coming back to bite them a bit. I think they could be better. And I want to see better from them if they want to be a legit Stanley Cup contender. So that's one of the things, too. And the New York Rangers, I was very stunned at that game last night. I thought the Rangers kind of folded against the Bruins. They really just succumbed to the Bruins' will. And, they're going to need to fix that fast because I think the Rangers, I picked them to go to the final because I think they have the tools to make it there and even win the Stanley Cup. I was very impressed with their run last year. And I think they've got it, but I think there's something off mentally there too right now. So I'll be keeping an eye on them as well.
Yeah, that game just fell apart and crumbled for the New York Rangers. Now they're playing obviously a red hot Boston team, but you don't expect those kind of mistakes. You don't expect one of those goals to go in on Shesterkin the way it did. In particular, the Pasternak goal. Yeah, absolutely. So there's some issues right now with the Rangers, and I think they'll be fine. I think as we get later into the season, they'll go on a big run. Keep in mind, there's a team that went to the East Final last year, and sometimes these teams that make the deep playoff run, I just don't know how Columbus didn't score there a second ago. The puck was lying on the goal line, but they're snake bit right there. Everything but score on that power play.
And Ian, I got to mention one more thing from last night. And Jimmy, I want to get your take, kind of lead in with this too. But somebody in the chat asked if I'm voting for Arvid Soderblom for Vezina, and my answer is no. And the Chicago media really needs to calm down because last night they went nuts saying that he might be the future
Okay.
of the Hawks in net. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did we forget about Drew Comesso?
You couldn't wait to get this fucking guy out of town last year. Now all of a sudden, a couple nice, decent little games, and where he's a Vezina candidate. Come on,
his mechanics are awful. And
let's get serious.
He was a blind squirrel finding a nut last night with that win. The Hawks continue to win when they're not supposed to. Jimmy, what's your take on the Hawks so far in this magical run that they're having?
It's crazy. A great minds think alike. That's actually, I was going to mention that team. I've been impressed with them a couple times. I like they've got a lot more resilience. They've got a lot more purpose to their play out there than they did last year. And I think that's a credit to the coach. I think Richardson's doing a great job with those kids. He's the perfect fit, I think, for what they're trying to do right now. Well, we don't exactly know what they're trying to do, but at least to help these young kids along that are there. So I give them credit. Yeah. Let's pump the brakes there.
A little too early to be giving Vezina trophies to Arvid Soderblom, no question.
For sure.
But plus, I thought the Kings were kind of, I'll be honest, I'll call it like I see it, dog shit last night.
They were.
I don't think they were.
They were dragging ass for most of that game. They got the shots off, but they weren't quality.
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't going to those. You could tell when you're getting a shot on goal and when you're getting a real quality scoring chance. And they had more shots on goal with very little danger. And a lot of those shots that they fired at the net were easy for Soderblom to handle. Great stuff. We had to do a little run around the league here for these 40 minutes with Jimmy because this is the first time we've been able to chat NHL with him. But we're hoping to have Jimmy with us Fridays moving forward here on the Ice Guys Show, which is a good day for him to be on because it's always a lighter card on Fridays, and we'll be able to do more NHL-based discussion like this. So with that in mind, though, we do have one game left on this Friday card. We've got obviously the matinee affair with the Jackets and the Avs already underway in Finland. And tonight, ESPN Plus, we have Buffalo and Carolina. The Hurricanes minus 200 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. The Carolina Hurricanes with a 4-3 win in a shootout last night over the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was a very entertaining hockey game between the Lightning and the Hurricanes. It was a back and forth affair. That is now 3 straight games, by the way. Alex, the Draw King, salute to him, liking the draw last night with Tampa and Carolina. He also liked it with Montreal and Winnipeg, and that also got there last night as well. So a couple of nice draw recommendations on the show from Alex yesterday. And that's now 3 straight games beyond regulation for the Carolina Hurricanes. The Philly game, the Washington game, and, of course, last night's Tampa Bay game all go to overtime or a shootout. Both of my Carolina prop betting warriors got it done for me last night. They both scored. Seth Jarvis, Marty Necas for the Carolina Hurricanes in the victory last night over the Tampa Bay Lightning. But now a little tricky spot, right, for Carolina as they play a back-to-back here after being in Tampa last night. The travel's not huge, but certainly Buffalo gets to have the day off. Buffalo playing some very good hockey. They are 6-2 in their last 8 games. They really could be 8-0 because you factor in, guys, that the 2 losses were brutal spots. You played Seattle at the end of that long, successful road trip. You had already beaten Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver consecutively. You're dragging ass a little bit. You're at the end of that road trip, and they were flat against Seattle, 5-1. The schedule makers do not do the Sabres a solid. They have to play less than 48 hours later back home in Buffalo after traveling from Seattle to play Montreal. And they really didn't have it that night either. Again, a tough spot. But you get away from those 2 bad spot games, as I like to call them, and Buffalo's been winning every other game pretty much. Beat Chicago, beat Pittsburgh, beat Detroit at 8-3. The big 6-point hat-trick night for Tage Thompson, who is quickly becoming, I think, a star in this league with the trajectory. I mean, he is a load to handle. He's a big guy who can skate incredibly well for a man of his stature. And he's got great hands. You see the little backhand, forehand, deke moves to score that hat-trick goal against Detroit early this week. It was a thing of beauty. I mean, he's playing great. Skinner on that top line. You know, that's 2 years in a row. He's been solid. This is a Buffalo team that is just firing on offense right now. They're never out of any game. They come back to beat Pittsburgh the other night. This is a tough spot for Carolina because, look, Buffalo is going to be moving their feet. I mean, they play with good pace. They've got Carolina coming back home from the Tampa game on a back-to-back. This is a spot, I think, for Buffalo to pounce maybe on this Carolina team here. And I think there's still an undervalued hockey team at this point in time. Like, they opened as high as plus 180 in this game, and you can still get plus 170 with the Sabres. I like Buffalo here in this game, plus 170. And I'm going to do the split here with Buffalo plus 170 money line and the team total over 2.5, which is right around minus 130. I like both of those here in this game tonight. I think the 6.5 could go over as well. Craig Anderson, not Eric Comrie, has been confirmed in net tonight for the Sabres. But I will say this, Anderson's been pretty solid for the most part this year, 3-0 in his 3 starts, a 1.67 goals against average, and a 946 save percentage. What is this? 20? This is Craig Anderson that it says on his that he's 41. He's playing like he's 31 to start this year. He's been really good, 3-0, and those numbers can't be much better than that. 1.46 goals against and 947 save percentage for Craig Anderson. So it has been impressive to witness. So I like Buffalo here. I'm going to split it with the team total over and the money line. Smaller lean toward the over. And I'll get to some goal scorer props for this game. And I got a bunch after, but we'll take it to Alex first with this one, Buffalo, Carolina.
Yeah, I grabbed plus 180 yesterday. Just kind of a gut feeling that I thought the Carolina-Tampa game last night was going to be a tough battle because I like that going to overtime, and it did. Now you go to overtime, went to a shootout and quite a lengthy shootout as well. So sometimes that, extra, 20 minutes can kind of, wear just a little bit more. It's just, a little bit longer time. And against the rival, too, Carolina and Tampa, those are two teams that do not like each other one bit, and you can kind of see that in their battles. So to now have to come back home, take on a Buffalo team that, has that momentum from the comeback win against Pittsburgh. Also, keep in mind, this is the mother's trip. We saw them in the crowd. They showed them often during the TNT broadcast. So, now they're all traveling, spending time in Raleigh, getting acclimated. We have seen teams, it's not a surefire bet on or bet against situation, but we have seen teams play well when the mothers and father trips are there and guys seeing their family. Keep in mind, too, in the first full season post-pandemic, a lot of people have not seen their family members and relatives. So those are just little intangible things to kind of think about. I think this is a good spot here for Buffalo. I think it's a bit of an overpriced spot for Carolina. So I took a shot here, plus 180, but I still like it at 170. And also took a shot with Tage Thompson over a half in power play points at plus 260. Like I said, he's been lights out right now, but, getting some extra value with him. And I talk about that with the top tier players. Rather than go plus 160 or plus 180 for a goal, go with something like 1.5 points and get, some extra value or power play points in this situation. He's a key power play guy over a half. So all he needs is an assist or a goal, and that's plus 260 in your pocket.
There you go. And a good price with that. Absolutely. And the power play has been very good, obviously, so far this season as well for the Sabres. So it's been a great start to the year. Alex like in Buffalo, and also that Tage Thompson prop. And I want to mention this, not only situationally is it better for Buffalo, they're rested, they're starting a road trip. It's the mother's trip this weekend. I think they're in Tampa tomorrow night, and the mothers are with them on this trip. They also did a Sabres road crew tour stop. They do the Sabres road crew where they invite a bunch of Sabre fans to a certain out of town where they're about to play. And they did one in Raleigh last night, an event, a Sabres road crew. It's a bunch of fans traveling down for that event and the game tonight in Carolina. And they basically have a bunch of Sabres alumni for the road crew event last night. They had Rick Jeanneret there. They had Danny Gare, JP Dumont there, Rhett Warner, Jason Daw. Dawsome, as Rick Jeanneret would always say when he scored a goal back in the day. A bunch of Sabres alumni there at the event, including RJ. I mean, and so you talk about a building tonight in Carolina where I think there's going to be a shit ton of Sabre fans. I think there will. Absolutely, especially with that tour stop being in Raleigh last night.
And then, in Raleigh, they actually tailgate for the games there because they always have nice weather. So you got a bunch of Buffalo fans coming down there. I wonder how many broken tables are in that parking lot.
Yeah, no, was that true? Your brother Nick Tim was at the road event there for the Sabres, was he?
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, of course you guys are in that area, so yeah, good spot. I would expect him. He should be there. If he's the so-called big-time Sabre fan,
right.
He says he is. Damn well should be at that event, especially when it's so close to where he is. No doubt about that. So I think it'll be a good turnout of Sabre fans tonight for that game in Carolina. And we do have to talk about the Carolina side of this. They have won 3 in a row, but none of them have been easy. They've been squeaking by. They barely beat Philly. They barely beat a struggling Washington team. They needed a shootout to beat Tampa Bay. Remember, they lost the home game to the Islanders, I believe, last Friday night they played a home game against the Islanders. They lost 6-2. So it's not like Carolina's been this unbeatable team, here early in the season. Jimmy, what do you think here, Buffalo, Carolina?
Yeah, I'm all over I'm going to actually take it a step further and one for you guys. A Jimmy Murphy reverse puck line coming at
All
you.
right.
Give me the
I missed those too.
Yep. That's 380 I'm looking at right here, guys.
Oh,
The reverse puck line. So I think this is a great spot for them. Good situational bet here on the Sabres. And I love that one that Alex, I'll do that same prop that Alex did on Tage Thompson. I'll also take Tage Thompson to score a goal, which you can still get some pretty good value at, surprisingly. Another guy that, they're starting to catch on a little, but they still haven't caught on fully as to how good this kid is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. He's been absolutely splendid here to begin the season. I actually can get you even plus 330 with a Buffalo minus 1.5 in some spots. So really good price on that. As far as props go for me in this game, I'll list. I mean, it's basically the same kind of stuff I've talked about with Buffalo. I'm looking for the bargain bin. Tuck is on a roll right now, plus 250. Quinn and Peterka for Buffalo, plus 500. They haven't always scored every game, but they're getting chances every game. And at plus 500, with Jack Quinn and J.J. Peterka, worth a look. Middlestat's starting to shoot the puck a lot more. His expected goals numbers have gone up since he's been on that second-line center spot, so I took a shot there, plus 450. Cousins and Dahlin, plus 425, are not a bad consideration as well for goal props in this game. And the one I'm absolutely coming back to the well with after getting an empty net goal for me against Pittsburgh, Kyle Okposo on that top line, plus 450. Once again, not priced like a guy playing on the top line for the Buffalo Sabres with Skinner and Thompson. So Okposo at plus 450. We're getting right back on the Kyle Okposo train with those props. And there are a couple on Carolina. I like Jarvis and Natchez are plus 240. Brent Burns at plus 425 is again worth a shot. He actually almost scored last night against Tampa Bay, but he's shooting the puck a ton. We're talking 4, 5, 6, 7 shots on goal for Brent Burns in a lot of these games from the blue line. And he's plus 425 to score a goal. And I'm going to go way down the bargain bin on this one too. Guy we mentioned, a guy that was a big producer in the playoffs in the AHL last year, and Alex saw him a lot for the Wolves, is Stefan Nason. He is plus 425 to score tonight. He is playing down the lineup, but he's getting chances and he is getting shots. You're going to be shocked when you hear this because he's been on the third and the fourth line since he's been up with Carolina. Do you know that in the last 2 games, Washington and Tampa, he had 6 shots on goal against Washington, and he scored in that game. And he had 4 last night against Tampa Bay. Didn't score last night, but he had the shots. He was getting the opportunities. So a little bargain bin there. Stefan Nason at plus 425.
Yeah, he's a good player, and he's definitely going to be a guy who I think is going to probably get some power play looks a little bit more. Might even move up to that second line if some of those other guys get us. I think he's got really good offensive talent.
No question. So I think there's definitely some value on him as well. That should be a good one. Looking forward to it. Sabres and Hurricanes. It's the only game on the night in the NHL, so you got to look forward to it. But it actually is a very good, intriguing hockey game with the Hurricanes have been good for years against this up and coming red hot Sabres team right now. Great stuff, man. Has it been great to have our friend Jimmy Murphy back?
Yeah.
We missed him. We're going to try to get him on every Friday moving forward here on the Ice Guys. Jimmy, talk about, and by the way, we mentioned this too. It's great that the Ice Guys is with National Hockey Now. It's been a nice partnership. Been great to work with Dan, and Joe's been awesome, behind the scenes with the podcast stuff so far the first month. The downloads are already popping. We're at over 11,000 downloads this month, and we haven't even gotten through a full month of the season. So it's been a great start here at National Hockey Now. And we're both under the same umbrella now, my friend Jimmy, National Hockey Now.
Teammates again. Good to see you guys. Sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And talk about your site. Pump up your work a little bit, Jimmy. Boston Hockey Now.
Yeah, I'm back full time with Boston now after helping Montreal get back off the ground. And they're doing phenomenal. Montreal Hockey Now is now, if you go to Google, we're usually the first ones to pop up if you type in Montreal Canadiens. So we're the top of the Google rankings, and the Bruins, same thing with Boston Hockey Now. So it's going great. It's fun to be part of this company as it grows. Those aren't the only sites. We've got some great writers. We got Hall of Famer Kevin Allen out in Detroit. Adrian Dater in Colorado.
George Richards does great in Florida.
And so there's a lot of good stuff going on. We just launched Dallas and we launched LA on Wednesday. So a lot of good things going on, and it's fun to be part of.
It is. It's great to be when you're with a group they're growing, they're building something. It's always fun and it's always exciting. So check out all the great sites like this. I rhymed them all off yesterday, actually, on the show. And Shang with San Jose. I mean, it's countless. Adrian Dater, Colorado. I mean, there's tons of great sites. And it's guys that are following these teams day and night. And they give you great little tidbits and info with the articles and insights that you're not going to get, in very many, if any, other places. So definitely worth checking all the team sites at nationalhockeynow.com.
Yeah, it's going great. Well, it's good to have you guys on board as well.
It absolutely is. And again, Jimmy Murphy, we're going to make him a weekly fixture, at least attempt to here every Friday moving forward here on the Ice Guys show. And reminder, patreon.com/Ice Guys. Make sure you check out all the bonus content we have there, just $10 a month at patreon.com/Ice Guys. All right, we got best bets to wrap up this edition of the show. Let's start with you, Jimmy. Back with us here today for the first time this season. What do you like for best bet?
Even with the Jimmy reverse puck line there, Buffalo Sabres -1.5.
There it is at +330 with that -1.5 Buffalo Sabres. Jimmy puck line. It wouldn't be Jimmy's return to the Ice Guys with a Jimmy puck line best bet to get things rocking and rolling. Alex, best bet.
I'm going with that Tage Thompson, half a point over for a power play points in the game at +260. That's great value for a guy who has been absolutely red hot, 11 points in 3 games. I think he'll be able to get something going with the man advantage. So we go Tage Thompson over a half point +260.
There you go. Tage Thompson over a half point power play point for tonight for the Buffalo Sabres for Alex P. Smith with his best bet. And my best bet is going to be, we're just going to go with the money line. We're just going to go Buffalo here +170 is what you can find. Upwards actually of +178, believe it or not, in some spots here tonight as well. I think it's a very live dog with a red hot team, the rest advantage. I think more Sabre fans in Carolina than you'll normally get, based on the fact they had the big Sabre alumni event yesterday in Raleigh. So a great spot, red hot Sabres team. I cashed with the best bet winner with Buffalo on Wednesday night against Pittsburgh in their comeback win. We'll see if we can hit another Sabres best bet winner tonight with Buffalo +170 against Carolina for my best bet for this Friday show. And that's a wrap. Alex and I will be back tomorrow, just the two of us tomorrow, noon Eastern, with a loaded Saturday show. Obviously, it is a huge card we've got tomorrow in the NHL. I'm counting it up right now. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games on tap tomorrow, including another Finland matinee between Columbus and Colorado. So we will cover it each and every game on the massive Saturday card, noon Eastern tomorrow. Make sure you join us for that.
Somebody there.
Final words from you before we wrap it up.
In the chat room, somebody was asking for a best play for me for tomorrow. Well, I'll give it to you now. Give me the Golden Knights in regulation in Montreal over the Canadiens.
There you go. Vegas in regulation. The red hot Golden Knights, who didn't, you know what's a mark of a good team, by the way? They didn't play anywhere close to their best last night against Ottawa, and they still found a way.
Yeah.
Yep, still found a way. And Jack Eichel's percolating.
Rip it up, they're going to be all right.
Exactly. So Vegas in regulation, and that, by the way, that's the real reason why Jimmy wanted to get Montreal Hockey Now back up and running. He just wanted to go to Montreal. That's why. Just reasons to go.
Montreal flu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he just wanted another bout of Montreal flu and, experience and see all his friends that he's developed there.
Speaking of guys, I mean, I know and I saw some of the listeners. Thank you for your concern. I am doing much better than I was about a month ago.
Yeah.
That's where I caught COVID. I was at a party for TSN 690 in Montreal. They had a big anniversary party they invited me up for, and 27 people from that party ended up with COVID. So it was a super spreader, so to speak. But, man, did it whip me. That was a lot worse than the first time. But, everything's good now. But, yeah, it was not fun. So I got a little more than the Montreal flu this time.
Right, yeah.
Well, at least
better now.
Thankfully, you're doing, because I know it was rough. You were saying it was knocking the shit out of me for a bit there.
I ended up in the ER once at maternity, so it was not fun. But quickly, funny story. I'll make it real quick. But so that party was on a Thursday, and I knew I was going to go out and rip it up with the guy. I hadn't seen people I haven't seen in like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
got to catch up with good old PJ Stock. That was fun. But I knew I was going to have a good time, so I said, "Yeah, I'm going to get a hotel room, stay an extra day, but not tell anybody." And that way, just coop up in the room, eat some poutine, nurse my hangover, and get a good night's rest before I drove. And then I was supposed to go straight from Montreal to New York City to go see Pearl Jam on 9/11 that Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I figured, okay, Friday, I'm feeling sick, but I know why. It's because I had a good time last night. But it got worse through the night. I mean, I was having trouble breathing and I couldn't sleep much. And then I was really hurting in the morning. So I'm like, well, this ride is going to suck. And now I don't even know if I'm going to go. I go, you know what? I'm going to go home to New York, home to Massachusetts, stay there, try to get some energy and see how I feel on Sunday. Yeah. I get to the border and didn't remember that, it's 9/11 and they're basically checking every other car. Okay.
Oh, right.
And so they put the dogs out and everything, I mean, they probably tipped off that there could be potential threats or whatever. But I'm just sitting there, and it's not fazing me, but I forget. And, I don't know how everybody feels about smoking marijuana, but I forgot that I had a roach in my backpack from the night before. and a half an edible. And so I'm sitting there about 10 cars deep, and I'm already feeling like shit, and I'm like, I think I'm coming. I felt like maybe I was coming down with COVID. I'm like, just get me through where I just want to get home. Don't let me get searched. And the guy comes by with the dog, and man, did that canine jump up on my hood and start dancing around barking. And I'm like,
oh, shit.
You're going to have to go over there, sir. And then they come up and they asked me, and they said, hey, listen, are you carrying marijuana? We're not, if you want to tell us, we're not going to arrest you. We're going to, take it from you and that's it. You'll go on your way. And I said, honestly, I don't know. I know that I'm going to tell you flat out. I was having a good time last night and smoked a joint. So maybe the smell is still on my clothes. I don't think I have any on me. I honestly don't know. And so they go, all right, well, they bring you to a room. I'm sitting there for like an hour and a half. And the guy comes in and he says to me, I thought you didn't have anything. And I said, I didn't know. Did I not?
Yeah. I don't know means I don't know. It means I'm not saying yes. It means I'm not saying no. It means I don't fucking know. Yeah.
So what's this? And I go, well, there you go. I told you. I forgot about it. I had a time. Clearly, it's in my pocket. It's not like I was trying to smuggle it. If I was trying to smuggle stuff, I'd do a better job than that. Right. And, don't get wise to me and all this. And so they ended up fining me $500. And then I got home and found out I had COVID. So not a good day.
Wow.
Did you still have the edible at least?
$500 fine and sick.
Yeah.
Did you still find the half of the edible or?
No, they grabbed it all.
Oh, they did. Oh,
I'll tell you, I could have used that edible when I got out of there.
Yeah, right, for sure.
So there's your Murphy's Law story of the year.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
But good times. But I'm fine now, and it's good to see you guys.
Yeah,
no, it is, and it's great that you're feeling better, that you look better, you sound better, and everything, and you're feeling better. Because you're right, it was tough. It was tough for you for a little bit there, but you look great. You're doing great, and we're great to have Jimmy back with us. Hopefully, every Friday moving forward on this show. Absolutely.
Good luck to everybody. Enjoy the hockey.
No question about that. We're looking forward to having Jimmy with us every Friday. That's a wrap for this edition of the Ice Guys. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the game, and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Saturday, noon Eastern, massive Saturday card, and we'll break it down for you right here on the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.